think that the immigration officer in your asylum case is really just a neutral fact finder who's going to give you a fair shot at establishing your claim? Well, think again. Your USCIS asylum interview is going to be much harder than you think. You see, the sad truth is that many US asylum officers are simply anti-immigrant and go out of their way to try to trip up applicants at their USCIS asylum interview. They make the asylum interview so much harder than it has to be, putting undue stress on applicants and actively seeking to rattle them so that they'll make mistakes that the officer can use to justify a denial. I'm going to tell you about 7 tricky tactics that you might encounter at your asylum interview, and we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying. And listen, I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for an asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years. Let me know in the comments how long you've been waiting. I'm going to walk you through 7 concerning tactics that I've seen immigration officers use during my 11 years working for the government's 2 main agencies for asylum and refugee matters, and during my time now as an asylum lawyer. Listen, this is important because understanding what you're up against is the first step in preparing to deal with these troublesome maneuvers. Stick with me to the end of this video because you're almost certainly going to encounter number 7 during your own asylum interview. This one is super common. Number 1, traumatic detail mining. Some officers repeatedly force applicants to recount traumatic experiences in excruciating detail, well beyond what's necessary to establish the facts. They'll make you describe violent attacks over and over, asking for minute details about things like weapons, clothing, exact words spoken, and precise sequences of events. They'll often circle back to the same traumatic incident multiple times during the interview, each time demanding more graphic details. Listen, while some detail is of course necessary for the officer to do the asylum eligibility analysis, this level of repetition often serves no legitimate purpose other than to wear down the applicant emotionally. And of course, this does often take a toll on asylum applicants. They get re-traumatized at their interview and may struggle to keep telling their story and explaining their case in a consistent, effective manner. Okay, number 2, cultural misunderstandings about body language. Asylum officers sometimes use against applicants behavior that manifests from cultural differences in communication styles. So for example, in many cultures, avoiding direct eye contact with authority figures shows respect, but some officers will write in their assessment, this is the written analysis they have to do after every interview, that the applicant appeared evasive and wouldn't make eye contact, and using this as evidence to question your credibility, which can be a strike against you. Similarly, they might misinterpret pauses before answering as evasiveness, when in some cultures, this shows that you're giving careful consideration to the question. Listen, I've seen cases denied because an officer misinterpreted perfectly normal cultural behaviors as signs of dishonesty. And while some officers might be making an honest mistake in misinterpreting these cultural nuances, I'm convinced from my experience both as a government immigration officer and now as an asylum lawyer that some officers willfully misinterpret these signs, that they know they don't speak to your credibility, yet they draw a negative conclusion and use it against you anyway. Okay, number 3, the timeline trap. Officers sometimes jump around chronologically when asking about events rather than discussing them in order, and this makes it harder to keep details straight and increases the chances of apparent inconsistencies. So they might ask you about something from last year and then jump to 5 years ago and then back up to 3 years ago, all while expecting perfect consistency in your answers about dates, times, and sequences of events. They'll often interrupt you mid-answer to ask about a completely different time period, making it extremely difficult to maintain your train of thought or to keep track of which incident you're even discussing. This disorienting approach can lead to confused responses that they'll use to question your credibility. Now, remember, this is crucial. If there are multiple inconsistencies in your case, then the officer can deem you not credible, which they can then point to as a reason to deny your asylum claim. And And many of the tactics that we're talking about today are gauged to do exactly that, to rattle you so that you'll make little errors that at least look like inconsistencies. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. Okay, we're at number 4 on our list of 7 sneaky tactics that asylum officers use to make things hard on applicants at the asylum interview. This one is the visa trap. Asylum officers often ask early in the interview if you've ever lied to an immigration officer or misrepresented anything on US immigration applications. And then later in the interview, they'll circle back and ask if you came to the United States to seek asylum. And when you say yes, that yeah, you fled your country and came here with the intention of seeking asylum, well, they'll tell you that they're looking at your visa application on their screen and point out that you said you were coming in this visa application for the purpose of tourism or maybe for business. And then the officer will say, aha, you told me earlier today that you never misrepresented anything, but clearly you lied on your visa application about your true intentions in coming to the United States. Your visa application indicates that you wanted to come for tourism, but you told me today that you intended all along to ask for asylum, which means you actually wanted to stay permanently here. So you did lie to get your US visa, and then you lied to me today when you said you had never lied regarding a US immigration matter. Listen, I've seen this exact scenario play out many times. It's one of their favorite gotcha moments. Next up, number 5, the declaration completeness trap. Asylum officers ask if your written declaration includes all incidents of past harm or threats. Now, most people quickly say yes, but then later in your interview, if you mention any additional incident that wasn't in your declaration, well, they'll claim you're being inconsistent. They might say, earlier you confirmed your declaration was complete, but now you're telling me about this other incident. So which is it? And this, of course, puts applicants in an impossible position of either appearing to contradict themselves or leaving out potentially important information. The officers often phrase this question in a way that makes it seem like saying no would be admitting dishonesty in your written materials. Okay, number 6, the anything else trap, which is similar to the declaration trap that we just covered. When discussing incidents where you were harmed or threatened, officers repeatedly ask, did they say anything else? What else did they say? Did they say anything else? If your declaration states the persecutor said A, B, C, and D, but then in your interview, you only mention A, B, and C, well, the officer will ask you, okay, did they say anything else? And if you say no, forgetting about D, well, the officer will claim that you're being inconsistent because your written declaration lists 4 things, but at your interview, you're saying it was only 3 things. All right, finally, number 7, aggressive rapid fire questioning. Some asylum officers intentionally bombard applicants with questions at a pace that makes it nearly impossible to think clearly or respond accurately. They'll fire off question after question after question, cutting you off and redirecting you when they don't like an answer that you're giving or when they just want to rattle you. It can truly be hard to tell your story when facing this aggressive questioning style. The rapid fire approach is especially disorienting when discussing traumatic events. The result is frustration, confusion, and potential inconsistencies in testimony. Some officers, I believe, deliberately exploit this dynamic to create credibility issues. Listen, with Trump back in office and implementing even harsher immigration policies, you need to be more prepared than ever for your asylum interview. And you really can prepare to deal with the 7 harsh tactics that we've covered in this video. You can proactively prepare to handle these and other challenges that the officer might throw at you, thus drastically increasing your chances for asylum success. By far, the best way to do this is through a full-scale practice interview ahead of time. Our clients tell us the single most valuable thing they did to prepare was participating in our full-scale mock interview and debrief sessions. This intensive preparation helps you practice handling all the sneaky tricks we've discussed today so that you can present your strongest possible case. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then please call my office today. The number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.